Welcome to the Nate and Dorin podcast. We are professional videographers based in Vancouver, Canada, and we're here to talk about relevant topics within the video and media industry. I'm Nate, and I run Nate Dixon Media.
And I am Dorin, the videographer, solo entrepreneur offering video production services. And today we are going to share the things that have helped us grow as videographers and video editors, and why it's important for us to keep learning, finding inspiration, and fostering creativity. It was interesting kind of brainstorming this concept with you, Nate, because I realized that we're a bit diverse here. You definitely have more of a style to your videos, and I realized that I actually don't. So it was, it was. I'm a bit nervous on what I'm going to talk about here on this topic, but I think it's better if I just let you kind of start it off because you definitely have a lot of sources of inspiration. So why don't you share some of those with us?
Okay. Well, one of my favorite aesthetics is futurism and retrofuturism. So anything like cyberpunk, that kind of style, I really gravitate towards. So this whole movement of like synthwave and the 80s nostalgia, I'm
Hmm.
just loving it. Like Stranger Things, Kung Fury, those kind of
Oh yeah, I love those
projects.
too.
Really,
Yeah,
it's so awesome. I love it.
games are doing
So
that too. Then what you call it? Didn't not Crisis.
CD Project Red released
Hmm.
Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh yeah, that's a really
That's a
recent
big
one.
one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's all over the place. So
Hmm.
although that doesn't really, I don't really shoot videos that style. That still inspires me,
Hmm.
and so artists like, and we'll put links to these in the description so you can check them out for yourself. But Ash Thorpe, he actually does a lot of concept art for, like, for example, the new Batman movie coming up. He did the design for the new Batmobile. He's done some concept work for Star Wars. He does a lot of cars. Like he was designing some with Ken Block, who's done those Gymkhana series. So he kind of inspires me in how he's always learning more. Like I follow him on Instagram. He's got a podcast as well. So he's always interviewing fellow creatives and seeing what their process is. And I think the key to his success is he's always learning new things and he's working at it every day. He doesn't lull, he doesn't take breaks. He's always on top of it. And I think that's a recurring theme in a lot of the people I'm inspired by is their drive and their consistency.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. I just remembered another game that kind of did the retro thing. Far Cry.
Right.
Yeah. um. So when did you get inspired by that? When did you start noticing that stuff? Was it before you were into video editing? Was it a process that you were doing trying to find different styles and you came across this trying to look for it, or how did you come about it?
Well, yeah, I think maybe 5 to 7 years ago when I was starting to get more serious into video, um, I definitely seeked out different artists. Another one, Jazz Davis, he's done videos for Skrillex, the DJ. So a lot of Skrillex's tour videos, like when he went to Mexico or Japan or whatever, um, Jazz would tag along and film everything and make these really trippy, innovative videos, shooting with like ultraviolet filters. Have you seen that, Doran?
Yeah, I think I've seen that on one of the guys that I watch. Philip Bloom did something like that. Yeah.
Hmm. So like different cool techniques, shooting on like an old handheld, like VHS style camcorder, 4x3, so it looks like it's filmed in the 90s. Just like always trying unique, cool things. Yeah, so I think I was just looking for inspiration. I'm looking on Instagram, seeing like who's doing the videos that I'm enjoying watching, and then finding more of the work that that person's done. That's kind of how I've found that inspiration, I think.
Cool. So, is that like one of your earliest inspirations? Is that the one that's most kind of meaningful to you, that drives you the most?
Probably the earliest. I'm always looking for more inspiration. Um, yeah, I really think that it's not so much the content that the person is putting out, but like the dedication to their craft. So even if it's not something that I'm like striving to do, like exactly, like I'm not trying to learn how to model photorealistic car designs, but I follow him because I love seeing the passion that he like. You can tell the passion that comes through his work. Um, yeah, so it's more the drive to hone their skills and not just sit back and rely on, oh, I've been doing the same thing for 10 years. I'll just keep doing that. It's working.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing as a video professional. You have this choice of like, do you find a niche and you just stick in it and never kind of spread your wings beyond it? Or do you look to challenge yourself? And I think it comes down to how creative of a drive you have. Um, and it's something that for me personally kind of comes in waves or phases, I guess. Like maybe once summer I feel super creative and I want to try new things, but then if my life gets too busy, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna like focus on what I know. And because that's I think that's one interesting thing between, like, for example, as a freelancer, I don't have much say into the style of video in corporate work. Because in corporate work, it's like,
Mm,
okay, we don't like this transition, we need this transition. We don't want fancy text, we want this simple stuff. You have to use our graphics, you have to animate them the way we want. So the only time I've had a chance to stylize and figure something out was, I guess, wedding videos or um, maybe some promo videos for some businesses.
mm,
So it's also interesting how sometimes how you figure out if you're creative or not. Remember, we were talking in episode one when we were discussing how we first started out, that the workplace that we worked at really kind of pushed us and gave us the opportunity to be creative, to create like an intro or here start figuring out how to work a green screen. And I thought that was a helpful thing to have an employer that gave you that opportunity.
hmm. Yeah, that's key to maintaining and keeping your employees happy. Is you want to give them space to grow. You want to let them learn new skills so that they become more valuable to you. Hmm.
Indeed. Um, so that's the futuristic retro, did you say?
Yeah, retrofuturism.
Hmm. What else inspires you, Nate?
What else inspires me?
Or you and your
Oh,
shooting style? Because definitely thinking back on last week's episode when we looked at some of our older videos,
mm,
um, you definitely had something in mind. Because in my videos, stuff was maybe kind of randomly thrown in or very like basically done, but you had like specific transitions and specific effects, like that double exposure. For example, that double exposure, did you come up with that, or you saw another person do it and that inspired you to style your video that way?
I think that one I just kind of ran out of ideas of what to put next in the video, so I just was like, "Oh, let's try a few of these different effects." I knew I had something dark and like a silhouette, um, so I might have been subconsciously inspired by like the True Detective intro for season one that used double exposure really well. Um, but in that specific video, I don't think I was trying to go for a specific look. I was just messing around with a few different blending modes, and it turned out pretty cool.
So yeah, you've had this moment where you go and try every single effect in Premiere and After Effects just to see what it does.
Oh yeah,
It's really fun.
that's a great way to learn.
I actually had a friend, a younger friend that just graduated high school and is thinking of doing videography. And he was sharing with me one of the YouTubers that he likes the style of videos. And he was showing me, he's like, oh man, I love the way he does this transition. And I went through one of those moments where like I see it, I'm like, I know that effect. It's on the tip of my tongue. I can recreate it for you in 5 minutes. He's like, no way you can do this cool looking thing. And I went through the first two things that I thought it was, and it wasn't that. And it turned out it was um, he did a transition using a color key. So he would use like the blue sky or something, and he would
Hmm.
do like a really unfeathered version, so it would look like the whatever you're keying out pixelates out, kind of, you know.
Hmm.
So I don't remember the name of that channel. This was a few months ago, but I remember kind of being energized by this young fella that's like, "Oh, I love this style." I'm like, "Oh, I wonder, show me." And then I'm like, "Oh, I recognize that effect. I know it." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's easy to do. It's just a thing you slide and that's it." He's like, "No, it doesn't take you like half an hour to do." I'm like, "No, man. If it did, these guys wouldn't be doing it because it's not time efficient. Or if they
Hmm.
did do it, it's a preset." So let me ask you this, Nate. Since you've taken up video, have you been able to watch other people's videos or movies the same way?
Oh my goodness. No.
What has
Oh,
changed?
I have a really hard time suspending disbelief when watching CGI stuff. I'm always like subconsciously looking at the eyes, looking at the pores, seeing if the pores stretch, like all these little details that I'm like,
Are you talking
okay,
about
what
a
did they do
full
wrong?
CGI or a background CGI on a live action?
Oh, both. Like,
Hmm.
um, I think it's easier. It's more distracting for me when it's like a human face CGI.
Oh yeah.
Like when they're trying to do a deep fake or like a face replacement or a
Hmm.
de-aging. Like
Oh yeah.
it's
Terminator.
Terminator, Rogue One, like
Yeah.
when they're trying to do digital doubles, it just throws me off and it's
Yeah.
unless it's absolutely perfect, it totally jars me
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Oh,
Ruins immersion there.
oh yeah." So I think maybe
But
if I
but
wasn't
but here's the thing. If it would have been 1998, Nate, he would have been like, "Oh, how did they do that? That looks so cool."
yeah, probably would have just been more, "Oh, that's amazing. That's so cool."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
I remember noticing a poorly done green screen key on Avengers. Which one was it? The Black Panther one.
mhm.
Yeah, it was
I
like,
don't know Marvel at all, so
yeah,
I'm in
no,
the dark
they
there.
did like it was visibly bad. Like all the critics were like, it's too obvious. I think because the guy's hair was creating some problems. So,
Mm.
and I think they also rushed release it. So, cutting corners, and oh, there you go, breaking immersion. Have you ever caught like when they do? It's not a blooper. Like when a staff member or the boom dips in, or one of those gaffs.
Sometimes I notice them, but sometimes I don't for sure.
I notice those a lot, not in movies, but in like pro videos. You know,
Mm.
like I follow a couple of Facebook groups of videographers, and they post like their stuff. And some of these guys have been doing it for 10 years, and they're like, "Oh, here's my $100,000 video project I did for this company." And I'm like, I can see your reflection in the window. That's a rookie
Ah,
mistake. Come on.
yep. Yeah, whenever I'm watching real estate videos, it's the same thing. If I see a reflection of the person walking or using their slider, I'm like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
can't unnotice.
So definitely, I've definitely gotten to the point where I like can't watch a movie, like unless I'm very immersed in the plot, then I'll kind of ignore my video senses. Let's just call them that. But
Mhm.
if it's something that I like don't want to take too seriously, I'm like deconstructing their scenes every time. I'm like, all right, this is probably the focal length that they used, and this is probably the lighting sources, and oh, that's an interesting angle, and I wonder how far apart they were, and that's in my head. It's kind of like, I guess, for an audio person, for like a music composer, listening to a new song, they're not listening to it. They're like, oh, okay, I can replicate that melody on the piano by listening to
or,
it.
or this is what plugins they used.
I've actually had that. And I'm not an
Yeah.
audio person, but sometimes like I like when I first heard Bass Hunter, I'm like, I know exactly what synthetic pad you used because it's the default one in Fruity Loops. And then I find a tutorial of him like doing it. I'm like, yeah, I knew it. Um, but anyway, let's just sorry, we kind of went on a tangent there, but that's what the podcast is about, you know. Let's see where the
Mm.
conversation goes. But thinking back on inspiration and creativity sources for us, um, so you had mentioned yours. With me, here's the thing with me. I kind of didn't jump on board of following different influencers and kind of watching their styles because I noticed that every other YouTuber would try and imitate them. And that kind of ruined it for me. You know, that kind of made me not want to do that because it's like telling it like hearing a joke and telling it 100 times and it's like it's not as efficient as or effective as the first time.
Mm.
So and even like I said, those Facebook videographer groups, some of these people that are just starting out, if there's one advice I can give right now to people starting out is don't try to oversaturate your style at the beginning. Try and evolve it, going from simple steps moving forward, but don't try instantly doing like every transition in the book.
Yes, too many transitions is a common thing I see with beginners as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to do that in an episode. We'll have to go and take a look at some of these guys and give like a feedback video, you know, a critique
Mm.
video. Because we did ourselves, so it's only natural that we
Mm.
move on to others. Who knows? Maybe some of our viewers will ask for some feedback.
Mm.
So, in terms of inspiration, does here's a kind of like how your brain's wired type of thing. When you're making a video for your channel, do you pick the music track first and make the footage match it, or do you see what footage you have and try and visualize music afterwards?
I always, well, after I import all the clips, I'll go through, find my favorites, in and out them, and then I can't start building a timeline until I've got the music chosen.
Hmm.
I think definitely the flow of the music dictates everything else in the edit.
Hmm.
Are you the same way?
Yeah, I am for my personal videos. Yes, or for stuff that I would have artistic freedom on. However, again, corporate and freelance world sometimes forces me to, okay, the video has to be a minute, and you have to include all of these shots, and then it's like, okay, find a background music that works with this. And the music is more there for accompanying the video and not driving it forward, you know? So you don't have to
Mm.
edit stuff to the beat. You just have to have a little thing in the background because the person's like, there's a narrator that's taking over the attention, not the music, right?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So I've had a bit of both. Um, but definitely thinking back on when I do a video, it's I hear the music, and because I know the video clips, I visualize them like, oh, I know exactly how to transition this into this moment in the music,
Mm-hmm.
especially for weddings. So when I edit a wedding video, yeah, I have to pick the music first, and then I have to choose from all the shots. And sometimes the music will help me figure out which shot to use. Because, like, I don't know if you've had this problem, but it's like, okay, I need a 3 minute video. I have 10 minutes of clips, and they're all good. How do you choose at that point? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, this one's good, but this one matches the flow of the music better.
Mm-hmm. And how it fits in with the clip before and after too. If
That's,
there's like,
yeah.
zooming out or it's motion,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to have like zooming out, then zooming out, then zooming out. It just looks weird.
Yeah, that's another tricky thing to do when you have a defined style, because some people have a filming style, right? Not everything is done in post. Some people film certain things, like a wedding a cinematographer will um, plan certain shots and do a gimbal motion a certain way. But if he does that gimbal motion for all the shots, that becomes very redundant and boring, right?
Yeah.
So at some point, with enough experience and experimentation, or through influencers that you watch online or other professionals, you can develop a style and know, like, okay, for all the shots today, I want to get this motion 3 times, and then this one 3 times, and then this one 3 times, and then I know I can mix them all together. So,
Mm-hmm.
so at that point, your style is very organized, and you have to be very disciplined.
Yeah, you have to shoot with the edit in mind,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
You got your intro, and then it's always so great if you have a plan where, shoot the first shot and then you pan to the left, and then to start the next shot on the storyboard, you pan, from right to the left so that you can merge them together and it looks like the camera's just whoosh. And
Hmm.
it's like it only works when you film it that way. If you
Hmm.
do just a slide transition, it's not the same.
Yeah. I remember first time I saw that was a real estate video, and they were transitioning from room to room, doing that, and bypassing going down a hallway, which doesn't look as appealing. Instead, it's
Mm,
like one room after another, and it was like it helped with grabbing the attention. You know, it kept
mm.
me wanting to watch that video. Um, I remember you when we were working together at that place. You showed me a guy that was doing a lot of cool transitions. I can't remember the name, but he like went from a city um, setting to like a cave, and the transition was like a skateboard. Do you remember that video?
City to a cave with a skateboard.
Yeah, like he was
Hmm.
skateboarding in the city, and somehow the skateboard kind of went in front of the camera, and he was like now like somewhere in one of those canyons, the like orange canyons in the U.S.
Oh, okay.
This is one of your influencers that you're watching, one of your
Yeah, I think
YouTube
it's one of
guys.
those
Yeah.
insane skateboarders.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
who does like a lot of flatland and like tricks on the ground, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh shoot, what's his name?
Yeah. You know him.
I
See.
know him. I know who you're talking about now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's. I guess that's one thing that will help you realize if you're creative, and if this stylized and artistic stuff is for you, is if you watch it, you like it, and if you follow along in figuring out how to do it. Like, sure, you can watch tutorials and you can do exactly what the person is showing you how to do it, but if it doesn't click with you, like we mentioned just earlier, like to know how to
Hmm.
film to get it, to know like if everything doesn't kind of come not naturally but logically, I would say. Because some stuff, like I have learned, but after I kind of forced myself to practice a little bit, so
Hmm.
it's definitely interesting. I do know a video professional that just doesn't want to be creative. They're very happy with doing very just simple but effective, like multi-camera live streams. And I don't need to edit. I don't need to do intros. I don't need to do any of the fancy stuff. And his business is booming, so good for him.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, if you're content doing the same thing over and over, if you don't have that like creative itch that you need to scratch, then go for it. But I think that creativity can drive you to learn those more valuable skills that you might need down the road.
Mhm.
So I think it's a tool you can, or like a muscle. You can, the more you exercise it, the stronger you can get.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
Oh, and that skateboarder is Killian Martin, and the filmmaker is Brett Novak. I just had to look that up because
There
it
you
was
go.
easy. So yeah, check those videos out. They're so creative, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the transitions are awesome. Super cool.
Mm-hmm. Um. So what else can you say about your sources of inspiration? Like, have you found any source of inspiration in a place you didn't think of looking?
Hmm. I think sometimes when I'm like shooting with somebody else and seeing how they approach the situation, that can inspire me when I'm not looking for it. Like if I'm second shooter at a wedding and I see, what kind of angles and if they're doing a pull focus or something the other guy's doing, I'm like, oh, I wonder how that'll look. And then when I see the finished edit and I see their shot in there, I'm like, oh, that inspires me to, think outside the box, or that's a good angle I should try next time.
Mm-hmm.
Imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. Is that what they say?
Yeah, sounds about right.
So trying to pick up, or not even trying, just being around other creative people or uh, filmmakers can inspire you in ways you didn't know just by watching how they work.
Have you ever been in a position to inspire someone? Like, have you had any comments for your work and like, oh, how'd you do that? I want to learn how to do that.
Yeah, I think a few times. It hasn't been from other filmmakers, I don't think, but other people have uh, watched my work and then they'd messaged me like, "Hey, man, that was such a cool shot," or "I have no idea how you did that," and then I would
Mm-hmm.
like be like, "Oh, actually, this is how I did it," and kind of explain it to them, and then they're like, "Oh, that's really cool. I don't know much about video, but now I kind of want to learn more because what you're telling me, that sounds really cool." It's kind of like that story that you told me of that younger kid who thought that effect was super complicated, and you're like, "Oh no, I can do that in 5 minutes,"
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah, yeah, that was experience that helped me. See, that was interesting because that's not something I've done or have seen prior to that. I remember I watched one music video clip when I went to Romania like 6 years ago, and it was an MTV. It was like the Romanian MTV. I can't remember what that TV channel was called, but anyway, there was this European artist, and I have no idea how to look him up because I didn't remember anything. I was on my honeymoon, so I had other things on my mind. But what they did in that video absolutely made me go like, oh, oh. I was kind of cringing, but I was kind of admiring the creativity because what they did, the guy was like dancing and moving around and stuff, and they did a face track and stabilize on the face. So the face was completely locked and everything else was distorted and warped, and but that was the effect they were going for. So normally if you shoot something, let's say for a corporate video or for a wedding, and the stabilize looks wonky, you're going to have to scrap that clip or like 50% less on the stabilize and go for a half shake or something, right?
hmm
But this person in a music video clip just went full on, like they were completely still but like moving their head around, but it looked like it was like held in place with a contraption, but nothing was there, and the background was just jumping everywhere, and I instantly recognized, I'm like, that's a warp. stabilize. And you guys are brilliant?
Using
Oh,
it for not its intended purpose.
yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, I noticed just last week. I noticed a music video that did another thing. There's the morph cut or morph transition tool in After Effects, and they were creating a trippy effect where, um, like, let's say I take my phone and I move it here, and then the next frame, like my phone is pixelated and dissolving, but it's actually like the colors are still there, but the movement, everything shifts to a different setting. I don't know how to explain it. It's just, it's the morph. But I remember looking up their behind the scenes or their explainer video, and they're just using a morph transition, purposely breaking it to create a meltdown effect or something like a complete
Mm.
video meltdown, like artifacting, whatever. And I was like, man, like that inspires me to do it, but I know I have to put in the mental effort of what we were talking about earlier, like go through effects, see what
Mm.
their intended use is, think outside the box, see how you can break it. Okay, this is how it looks broken. How can I use this? So I think that's a mentality that I have not approached in my videos, and maybe it's time that I should, you know?
Mm. Yeah. Because it's easy to get stuck in the same rut, of just following the same formula. This is how I do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you say, it takes a lot more mental effort to purposefully go out of
Mm-hmm.
your way to try those new things.
Yeah, like you have to accept, like, okay, maybe it'll take me 5 minutes, maybe it'll take me 5 hours, but I'm gonna play with this plugin or transition or effect or whatever until I have something unique.
Mm.
So either that or you visualize, like, oh, it would be cool to have a meltdown effect, and then, like, okay, how can I achieve this? I think I've had a few of those moments when, like, a client asks me to do something like that, where I'm like, okay, I have to look up how to do this. And it's either easy to do or I need to buy a plugin. And it's like, nope, not doing it. Oh, man. Um, yeah, it's, uh, it's really fun having your own style. And it's something that, here's another interesting thing. It's always evolving as well. Because, like we were saying, either you stick in one place and you say, like, okay, I developed the style and this is what I'm sticking with, but your viewership or your brand is eventually going to get old doing that. Like, if we look at big brands, they're always changing their design, they're always changing the way they're doing a promo, the way they're doing a slogan, they like vary it. So I guess from a business point of view, the more defined of a style and the more, nuanced it is from every now and a while, the more memorable and standout it will be, right? Because
Mm.
every time you add something new, you add interest back into your product, right? Or into your image, into your brand.
Mm. I think it depends what it is, though.
Hmm.
Like Nike is never going to change their swoosh logo.
Not their logo, but they're always changing the designs of their shoes. They're not selling the identical same shoe model from 20 years ago. They're
Mm-hmm.
adding
Unless
like
it's like a
new curves or new different stitching, or that's what I
mm-hmm.
mean. So,
Okay.
so not a brand's core identity, their logo that has to be recognizable, but that's just a little thing on the bigger shoe that's like, whoa, that's a
Mm-hmm.
Nike shoe? Yeah, it's the newest one. Like, wow, I've never seen one like it. Like, exactly. Now you want it.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with a lot of producers and like musical artists. They'll release an album, and typically it seems like they'll either kind of crank out more of all the same, or they'll evolve their sound. And sometimes they'll lose fans for that. Sometimes they'll gain fans, but
Hmm.
uh, they try new things. Like I think of Skrillex when he came out with like bro step and kind of the dubstep scene, and then he's collaborating with Justin Bieber and doing like more pop stuff. And some people are like, get back to your old stuff, but he just like keeps on evolving, and he's done so much of like all different types of music, and it's like, wow, he's just doing things for him.
Hmm.
he, he's honing his craft. He's doing whatever. He's not just sticking with, people back in 2010 loved this style, so I'm going to stick with that. I think that when you stagnate like that, you're not going to be happy, and you're eventually going to grow tired of it, and other people are going to grow tired of it too.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. Here's an interesting question for you. Have you one place? I guess I'll just answer I'll give input to what I asked you earlier. Like, have you ever been inspired from places you didn't think you'd be inspired? And I have, from a certain place, especially recently in the last year. Memes. Memes are just goofy and silly, but some people that are video editors have taken up some memes and created masterpieces. I can't call them any other way. And it's like, and it's I always it's inspirational because when you look at the comments, the most top rated comment is, I can't believe you spent this much amount of time for a meme, just for like a joke. But he went so full on the creativity that it's like, I admire you for it.
Mm.
And I've seen memes that I know would be a challenge for me to do because they're so like well done. It's like ridiculous. Like I remember first time I saw a video that took other memes of like people doing like a sound, like someone's dropping a pipe, or someone's getting slapped by a fish, or someone's like yelling, or a cat's meowing or something, and they're recreating like a popular song, like a classic, like a Michael Jackson song or something, and they're using each sound from each meme as an instrument, and the video is a collage of all of this. Just like, I know what you had to do in order to get this, and you are a brave soul. And I don't know, besides like online admiration, everything you used is copyrighted, so you're not making money, but you've displayed your talent, and I'm impressed.
Are you also impressed with those replacement type memes, like the B movie, but every time it says B, it's like the loudest version of it, someone yelling B, and they went through the entire movie and replaced every single instance.
Yeah, yeah. There's some stuff that's very simple and very like face palm, but because it's like, it's funny, fine. I think, uh, like, I like every type of meme. Sometimes if the meme's not good, but the video works good, I'll give it a like. Just because of that, because I'm like, you know what, they did a really good job with the video. I think the first video meme I saw in terms of an edit, these are two memes that were like my favorite, and they probably still are. One is the shooting star meme. Do you know that one?
Yeah.
So like somebody falls and then they like the music kicks in and they're like going through space and dimensions, just like in their looping phase. Some of them are really crudely done, and it's like, okay, you did it just for the meme. But some of them are so like well looped that it's like, yeah, I can groove to this. This is funny. Or the perfectly timed cuts. Those are good. So like one example is the Allahu Akbar one, or any general explosion one. Like, oh, here's a fat cat. Oh, he's sliding. He's about to fall, and boom, cut to a cabin exploding. But the cut is so seamless, so perfect, that it feels real, even though it's obvious it's a different scene. But the timing and the flow of it makes it deliver, you know. So I'm really inspired by those. Like I want to experiment with memes one day. I just have to find the time for it. Actually, we kind of did that back in the day, didn't we?
Yeah, when we were like waiting for exports or whatever, we would take snippets of what the speakers said
Mm-hmm.
and pitch shift them, make it sound like they're arguing with each other
Oh yeah.
or with themselves. Oh yeah, we had fun with the Premiere pitch shifter was my favorite, I think.
Oh man, yeah. Taking stuff out of context is something we did a lot.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember a few internal company meme videos you could call them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we had one guy, like I did an Allahu Akbar meme once with we had a presenter that was like taking a break on the couch and the camera was still rolling, and he had a fly land on his knee, and someone came and swatted him. So I timed like right on the swat, like an explosion. Oh man, everyone loved it. Everyone, even the bosses. Uh, Probably one of my best memes I did back then.
Do you have any of those saved on
Uh,
your personal computer, or are they all
no,
lost?
no, they were just silly things we did at work. So those stayed there. Oh man. Um, One thing. What's something that inspired you that blew your mind? Not like, oh, that's so cool, but like, how? It's impossible. How? I can't even begin to think. Have you ever had one of those? You
Hmm.
can maybe reference like pre your video career.
I remember being pretty blown away when I watched Jurassic Park. So I was too young to watch it when it first came out, but I remember specifically the night that my parents let me watch it, and I was just like my jaw was on the floor watching the whole thing. Like, oh my gosh, how did they get these realistic dinosaurs in this movie?
what are,
That was
what are they called? Animatronics?
well, it was a mix. It was like, yeah, some animatronics, some CGI, and when in a lot of the CGI, they filmed it. They were smart about it. So with their limited technology, they would do it like at night with
Mhm.
limited lighting, and then they intercut with the animatronics and the CGI, so it really felt grounded. So, I mean, when I was 11 or 12, whenever I watched that movie, I wasn't thinking that, but I just remember being fully immersed, and I was like, wow, this is insane.
I've had that this feeling of like completely blown away when I've first seen like a trippy effect in a video, or like an abomination creation, or I don't know how to describe it. There's this one YouTuber, Syriac, like Cyriak, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Or the I and the Y might be switched. I can't remember correctly. I haven't watched him in a couple of years, but this is just a dude in the UK that just decided to film himself and in using After Effects. And he has see, this is what I mean. Like, this guy's just talented with After Effects. Like, he can take your one hand and take your individual finger and segment them into their own sequence or their own precomposition and build something out of it. They can build a dog figure with and your fingers are like the tail and the tongue and everything, and it's just like this abomination walking. It's a dog made from 1,000 of your fingers, And I was just watching this. I'm like, what? How? What? What? It's just blown away in like shock. Like, how? I've never seen anything like this. Nobody ever does this. This is insane. This is disgusting. This is brilliant.
So many emotions.
I know. It's like maybe a horror movie could use that. I think the closest I've ever seen to a movie actually having an effect like that was one of the Avengers movies, where Doctor Strange goes into the microverse or the somewhere in, I don't know where, in deep space in between time and space, or I can't remember exactly what the context was, but he was like tripping out and like his hand had like 10 fingers, and from one finger another hand with more fingers would grow, and it would just be a constantly evolving tree.
Mm.
I was like, yeah, 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 I know
It's
what you
hard
guys
not
are
to,
doing.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was looking up if they hired him, and actually all of his YouTube subscribers were like, "Oh, dude, did you see this thing in the movie? They did a pretty good job, but you could do better. They should hire you."
And it's also more impressive, I think, with him, the fact that it's just him doing it. Like, you could hire a team
Hmm.
of 10 people, assign them all different parts to it, and they could all stitch it together. But the fact that it's just him, one
Hmm.
brain, one program, one
Hmm.
piece of footage, like a hand, and he can turn it into something so crazy.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Have you ever had someone request that you imitate a style, like a client that says, "Ooh, we want you to do this style"?
Yeah, like I've had clients send me an inspiration video where they're like, "This is what we're going for,"
Hmm.
and try and emulate that. So
Hmm.
yeah, I've had that before. Not like a famous movie or anything like that, but just like, we
Hmm.
want to do a tour showcase in this building, and we want to have a host who's walking around. And so I'm like thinking, okay, yes, they're using a gimbal. They have the person mic'd up and talking. So I just like take the basics and can apply that to their video,
Hmm.
but not like a visual or editing style. Not really.
Hmm.
Have you?
I think I had one in mind, but listening to you, I lost it. Because that's why I kind of asked the question, because I'm like, ooh, I have one. Trying to remember now, which one was it? I don't think it was the wedding ones. I had a corporate. Well, I had something kind of in between. Like I had a client that thought he wanted that video, but his friends talked him out of it. So it was for this like a fitness center, a gym, and they showed me, okay, this is how another gym did their promo. I like the music. I like the. Can you do something like this? And that was my baseline. Like, okay, it has to match this as much as possible to make the client happy. And I did it, and I loved it. But there's something, and they can't put their finger in it. There's something. It's good. It's exactly what I asked for. And what they ended up doing is they asked 4 or 5 of their friends, and they identified that the style of that video didn't match. That style wouldn't apply to his setting, because his gym was more industrial, like um, rugged, or I don't know how to express it.
Gritty.
Gritty, yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Uh, I always appreciate when you help my ESL brain express words, because the reference video was very clean, plain white bright walls and a huge like glass wall with like natural light, and this one was like no windows, everything's like neon light inside. It looked like you were inside a garage or in a back alley or something. So the friends identified, like, yeah, you need different music. You can't go with this orchestral epic music. You have to go something different. So I'm like, okay, well, help me pick. Help me pick. So I would give the client the stock audio website, and I'm like, you look for something, I look for something, and let's pick something together. The bad thing about that was I had to retime all the cuts to the new beat,
Yeah.
so that was a bit of a pain. But that was definitely a learning moment to realize that, yeah, the project was a creative thing, and despite the client giving me creative input, I should have had the hindsight or the knowledge then, but I have it now. But luckily, the client was cool about the little oops. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. We should use a different song because it wouldn't match the visual. So sometimes, if a client asks for a style, you should explore that style and ask yourself as many questions about it as possible to see if it would fit or not. And I guess that applies for personal stuff too. Like, oh, I watched that style and I'm going to do it to my video, but it's never going to be as good as the original style. And the original style had a certain context that it was applied to, you know what I mean? So that just brings it back to, like, that's why I, like, sometimes I'm, like, put off by, like, trying to develop a style. Because like, if I try and imitate someone, I already know that it's not going to be as good as they did it just because.
Mm. Do you think it could be a starting point that you
Yeah.
could, if you can kind of imitate that one, then you can go from there and explore the different variants?
Yeah. Yeah. It'll come back to what we said earlier, like evolving it or adding your own personal touch to it. You know, like, okay, I'll do the main gist of it, but I'll add this extra thing, or I'll make it look different by doing this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely, that definitely motivates me to tackle it on at that point.
Yeah.
Hmm. So yeah, it's being creative. It's not something that you can pinpoint. There's multiple, as we discussed, there's multiple ways, direct ways you can look for it. Sometimes you have to notice it in places where you haven't looked at. Um, some stuff is really popular and really overused. Can you still use it? Can you twist it in your own way? I think the way you put it was really good. Like, you have to experiment with it. You have to try it. You have to go for it. You won't know, and you won't develop something new if you don't try, right?
Yeah, you got to start somewhere, and just
Mm-hmm.
the act of doing it might inspire you further, just like going through that process. So if you always see a style or something and you're like, I'm never going to be able to do it as good as that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going to be able to edit or like shoot like Steven Spielberg or, you know, James Cameron. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you're never going to make those mistakes that you're going to use to grow and learn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So
Doran,
what?
I think that's something we should both work on with our, we both have limited time, but
Yeah.
trying to insert those little creative bits of trying different techniques, learning new little things with the projects that we're already working on
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
when we can afford to do that.
Yeah. Maybe we could have it as a future segment. Like, ooh, you know what? This week I played around with this setting or this plugin, and I achieved a cool effect, and I want to share it with you, Nate. That'd be cool if we incorporated that into this podcast.
Yeah,
Because I know another thing we wanted to incorporate was like every time we get some new gear to talk about it, and I think both of us have made purchases recently, and we have a bit of time left. So, you want to talk a little bit about what equipment you just bought?
sure. Okay. So I got the DJI RSC2 gimbal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've used a few different gimbals before, like the Moza Air and the Zhiyun Crane. But this is the first one that I've bought and not rented. So I've been testing it out, done a couple shoots with it, and it's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the built-in tripod that folds up at the bottom. I know that's kind of a standard feature with gimbals, but I like that. the camera control cable works, which is new for me. The other ones that I rented, the USB cable that connects to the gimbal didn't communicate.
Mm.
So I'm really finding there's like a dial on the back where you can set it to adjust different camera settings. So I have it set to adjust ISO. So if I'm going to a brighter or darker, I can just adjust that without having to like hold it,
Mm-hmm.
go into the camera settings. Because with Sony, the alpha cameras, it's not super easy to change the ISO by default.
Right, so you have a
So
A7 III that you're using with a gimbal,
yeah, that's right.
and you have compatibility between the two, and they communicate.
Yeah, and there's a little record button right near where my thumb sits near the joystick. So I don't have to reach up, push record,
Oh
then
yeah,
go back to holding it. So that's super handy.
yeah. I still have my original Matza Air from 3 years ago, and yeah, sometimes I have to put the gimbal down, press record, but I also have to put a finger in front of the camera so that the motors aren't like thrown off by me pushing the
Uh,
record on the camera. And it's like, yeah, I
yeah,
definitely, if this year goes good, I would definitely want to get that gimbal as well. Um, Sweet. Did you get anything
yeah.
else?
No, that was it. That's kind of my latest thing I'm practicing with and using in projects right now.
What about your sweet PC, man? Come on, that's part of your
Yeah,
it's part of your gear. It's your editing unit.
I suppose so. Yeah, so I've been editing off of an old 2012 MacBook Pro until a couple weeks ago, and I got it like 2013. So at the time,
Oh
it
yeah.
was fast. It would do the job at editing 720 and 1080p. But this last year, I've been shooting more in 4K,
Hmm.
and it is just impossible to edit.
Yeah.
It is absolutely brutal, and like it would take me hours to export just a regular video, a simple color grade put on it, and it was just
And that's
like
a
it doesn't.
laptop?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So
so
15-inch MacBook Pro.
yeah, so now you can use that for on-site footage review.
Yeah, so it's still useful to have the portability, but
Hmm.
um, with the pandemic and everything, working more from home, it was that was a factor.
Hmm.
And yeah, for a few different reasons, I decided to go for a PC, a tower PC that now I've got a 12 core CPU,
Oh my.
64 gigs of RAM,
Oh.
a decent NVIDIA graphics card, the 3070. So it and I've been doing some testing, and it renders easily, like probably about 10 times as fast exporting
Wow.
from Premiere.
Yeah.
So from the limited testing I've done so far, it just screams.
Yeah, so it saves you money, or sorry, it saves you time, and
Yeah,
it brings in money because you can do more projects faster because of faster export times.
yeah,
Hmm.
and now I can actually work with 4K
Mm.
and without stuttering and having to worry about all that stuff. It's just like, oof.
Awesome, Nate. Yeah, well, those are some solid and big investments. So, congrats, and I really hope those bring your work to the next level. Definitely
Yeah, me
sounds
too.
like they did. Yeah.
Yeah, and now I can do screen recordings. I couldn't even record
Mm.
my screen and do anything else on the old laptop. So I was like, oh, I got some tutorials I want to shoot. It's like, oh, well, the program won't actually run properly if I try to record it. So
Yeah. Use up all the
end of the water.
CPU.
Yep. Yeah. What about you? What's your latest purchase?
I uh, I got my first drone, the
Ooh.
DJI Mini 2, which blows my mind on how light and small and feature packed it is. Like this thing is so small; it's smaller than my Galaxy S8 when folded, and it's only 249 grams. Like that's lighter than your cell phone. I was like, wow, this thing's insane. But it goes, it's got speed and it's got range and it's got a 4K and stabilized gimbal, and actually flew it just 3 days ago in like really strong wind, and it just no problems.
Mm.
Like, I didn't want to get into the drone business because prior to the Mini, there's regulations and certifications and courses and stuff. Like, it's a huge money investment besides the drone. And specifically where we are in Canada, you have to, every time you fly it, you have to contact Transport Canada and the closest, like, um, air traffic control tower, and it takes weeks and weeks to get permits. But with this thing, because it's under 250 grams, you bypass all of that, and the only requirements is don't be reckless, don't hurt people, don't invade privacy. Other than that, good to go, man.
Hmm. That's a
So,
game changer.
yeah, because it's like, okay, I just have to fly it and master it and not be an idiot about it. And basically, I decided to go this route because it's something that it's easy to pick up. It's not a huge investment, but it still offers good quality. Like, it shoots 4K at 100 megabits a second. That's pretty good. The sensor's kind of small, so you can't use it in like dark situations. But anyway,
Mm.
you're not allowed to fly in the dark anyway. You need a different type of certification, and you need to add lighting components to your drone, and that's like another problem.
Mm.
Um, Ooh, my light flickered on me, threw me off for a second. But yeah, no, I flew it a couple of times and it's amazing. And the reason why I got it was because I had every year I've had clients inquire about drone services, and last year I had like 3 or 4 people that I knew would have been like big money. And I'm like, but then this thing came out, and I'm like, oh, okay, $600 for 4K drone, 30-minute fly, 10-kilometer radius, which is insane. That's obviously line of sight, so realistically, you're never going to do that. But I flew it a kilometer away, and it was terrifying
Oh yeah.
because this thing is so small. If it's 100 meters in the air, you're already struggling to see it. If it's a
Mm.
kilometer away, you're just trusting the GPS and the, like, okay, return to home, go to the preset height, come to me. Oh, there it is. Because I learned that birds don't like drones and they attack them, and you can lose a drone to a crow.
Did your drone get attacked by a crow?
No, it didn't, but I am aware that that is a good possibility.
Oh.
Eagles, drones, or sorry, eagles, crows, seagulls, hawks. If you look up drone gets attacked, you'll see there's so many. The wind is your last worry with the
Mm.
drone. So yeah, I'm looking forward to spicing up my video services. The application for this would be real estate. Maybe a few weddings would require the extra fancy stuff. Um, Corporate. Most of my requests last year was for corporate stuff. Like, ooh, can you film our construction site from eagle's eye view to get that top down view of what we're doing? Like,
Mm.
I can recommend a drone guy. And clients actually like that. They like a one stop shop. Like, oh, you offer photography and video and drone? Oh, good. I don't have to look elsewhere. And that saves them time and headache, because then they have only one person to deal with and only one person that is in charge of everything. So either, I mess up everything or everything's great, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my
Cool.
latest edition, DJI Mini 2, which is awesome.
That's sweet.
Yeah, I'm putting off upgrading the computer for a couple of years.
Well, you got what, 4 years ago?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly 4 years ago. So it's a GTX 1070 graphics card, a quad core uh, 7600K Intel. Good enough. Good enough.
Yeah, it does the job.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah.
it's cool.
Cool. So that was our update with our gear, and I think we've explored our inspiration for the time being. I guess in the future, if we have, like I said, something inspiring or something cool that we've done, we can share it with each other and do a little segment about it. But I think
Yeah.
that was a good run today, and I do feel inspired by what we discussed to try new things. It was a good
Mm.
reminder of like, yeah, remember all these things that inspire you? Keep doing it.
Keep
Keep
doing it.
keep working at it. Keep innovating your style.
Yes.
So let's see that this year, Nate. Let's ramp up our style, especially me that doesn't have one.
Find a style.
Find a style. All right. So yeah, that's a wrap for today's podcast. Thank you very much for watching and listening. Leave a comment or a message about what topics you would like to us to discuss. Maybe give us a suggestion, challenges that you would like us to do. We're still working on that rain filming challenge. It's been the holidays here, so both of us were really tied up. But yeah, I feel like we're gonna be done with that pretty soon. Just waiting for some rain now. And yeah, we'd love to hear your feedback.
Yeah, or tell us who your inspirations are. I'm always looking for new inspiration and people to inspire me. And be sure to subscribe, not to miss an episode of the Nate and Dorin podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever you use to listen to podcasts. This has been Nate and Dorin. Thanks for watching and listening.